How has professional selling changed in the past few years?
I think the biggest change is there's a greater emphasis to really know your client and know more about them, to be able to understand how you can best serve them. Also, there have been changes in Congress and federal regulations that have enabled people to sell beyond their jurisdiction of maybe what they sold within their profession 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So more companies are offering more products to be able to provide more complete solutions for the client instead of the client having to go to multiple people to achieve the goals that they have for themselves.
Very cool, very cool. And how do you prepare for these sales calls with new customers?
I try to gather as much information as I can about the individual ahead of time. Sometimes social media is a way to do that, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or things like that, so that I can understand a little better as to who the person is, maybe what they do, their family situation. So try to get some background there. There's other sources available for information like that as well. And really the gathering of the real information comes once you get an opportunity to meet with the client and be able to ask lots of questions so you can really identify what their goals and needs are. And if you can find a way to solve those needs, then usually the sales process flows pretty easily.
Cool, cool. What are your perceptions of the prospect's knowledge?
The individual's knowledge in the financial services arena varies tremendously. Some people know very little about insurance products and investment products, whereas others have done a lot of homework prior to coming to see us or have bought a lot of products before coming to see us. So it's a very wide continuum. My experience is most are on the end where they maybe don't know as much, just simply because that's not been a priority to them previously, but maybe things in their lives have changed. Maybe they got married, maybe they bought a house, maybe they had a child or two, and all of a sudden these types of products that I offer in the insurance world start to become more important.
Cool. Does the prospect have more information than you, or do you have more information than most of your prospects? You obviously answered that a little bit, I guess, but...
There's always a lot of information available to the prospect with all the sources online. So a prospect can come into a meeting very well prepared if they choose to. My experience is most don't because of all the other demands on their time. And typically if they're sitting down with a financial services professional, they're usually doing so because they have some level of trust in that individual. So with that trust, they expect that individual to be the one who's done a lot of homework, to be prepared and be able to help them. If they're going to meet with somebody they don't have a lot of trust with, then they may choose to do more homework ahead of time.
Cool, cool. And so how does this affect your selling?
I think you have to move very slowly with people who have not done much preparation themselves ahead of time, because you don't want to move so quickly that they don't understand what the products are that they may be purchasing. My experience has been the best way to offer products that the client retains is to make sure that they fully understand what it is they're buying, and more importantly, why they're buying it. And if you skip through that process and move very quickly, then you take the chance of having those products lapse, meaning the person quits paying for those policies soon after buying them. And that's not really helpful to anybody. It's not helpful to the client, it's not helpful to the financial services professional who sold the product, and it's not helpful to the company that offered the product.
So what type of selling techniques do you use when you perceive that you have more information than the prospect?
A little bit like the last question. I think when you feel like you have a lot more information than the prospect, I think you just have to move a little bit slower. Some concepts you can move quickly if you feel like you're getting an affirmative from that prospect, that they understand exactly what you're talking about, where other folks don't. understand that, and you have to move a little slower. You have to provide more information. I think the internet through the years has provided tremendous resources. Occasionally, some of those resources that they stumble across aren't always on point with what they're trying to figure out, and sometimes can be a little bit confusing. So if, as the financial services professional, you can direct them to places that reinforce information about the products you're offering, that helps some people. Some don't have any interest in doing that at all, and you have to use that sales appointment to really dig down deep and explain the details of each product to them.
Cool. So then what type of selling techniques would you use if you perceive that your prospect has more information than you?
I think when your prospect is well prepared, you can delve a little deeper into why these recommendations are so important. And you can show more examples of how the products work, because you're not spending as much time just on the very basics. It's almost like you can get a little bit further down in the weeds with somebody who understands the broad concepts, or somebody who doesn't. You're spending more time just painting a picture and dealing with the broad concepts of the issue.
And then what type of selling techniques do you use when you perceive that you and your prospect probably have equal amounts of information?
That's usually pretty rare, to be honest. But when you're on an equal plateau, I think you just go through the normal sales cycle of prospecting, trying to help develop a need, make sure they feel that need exists, problem solving, and then a review process where every so often you're getting back together with them as their needs and goals may change over time.
Cool. And how does a salesperson add value in today's information age?
I think in the financial services world, there's so many ways where you can add value. A basic example, many of the people I work with have a 401k or a 403b retirement plan at work. And a lot of them are unsure as to how that money should be invested. Although I'm not at all involved potentially in their 401k or 403b, I may be able to review information or offer suggestions to them as to using our process, our personal investor profile process, help identify what their risk tolerance is and get some idea as to what their asset allocation should be, and then communicate that to them to use with their plan at work. So it's not a product that I've sold to them, it's not a service that I'm making any money on, but I'm helping them do something that's important to them and adding value to their overall financial security.
Cool. And then the last two questions I'll ask will be questions that I made. And so the first of these questions is, how did you get into this business to start?
I was looking for an opportunity to start my own business, and I had zero capital. And so one of the things you can do in the financial services world is you can come into the business and basically start your own business without having to bring capital into it. Unlike starting a business like a Wendy's or Chick-fil-A franchise, where you might be required to have $250,000, $500,000 or more, you can start in the financial services business, operate your own business with really no or very little startup money.
Cool. And then the last question I'll ask, so do you make a residual income typically?
Yeah, in the financial services world, typically you're paid first-year commissions on products that you sell, and then oftentimes a renewal commission when those products remain in force. And the same can be said for the investment business, where there may be first-year commissions and trails, or there may just be service fees instead of that approach. And so what's really important in our industry is satisfied customers, because you work very hard in your client acquisition phase to identify your clients, turn that prospect into a client, and all the work that goes with that, and you want to retain them as a client, because the person most likely to buy something from you is somebody who has already bought something from you. So you want to retain those clients, meet their ever-changing needs, work with their offspring as their families grow, and grow your business that way. And so the renewal commissions and the trails, I've always perceived as being paid to you almost as a reward for your work in retaining that client, servicing them, and meeting their needs into the future.
Well, Mike, thank you very much for meeting with me today, and that's all.
Very good.